I know many of you have more questions to ask about the SIM card registration. So joining us live here in the studios is Matano Ndaro. He's the Director, Licensing, Compliance and Standards at the Communications Authority. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
A lot of people are asking SIM card registration or validation for that matter. Why? Why?
Why? Because the law that governs SIM registration, that is the Kenya SIM card registration regulations of 2015, require that people must appear in person before a registering agent to present themselves so that that agent can compare your face and the identification document, which could be an identity card, a passport, an alliance card, or even a service card for people in the service. Now, why is it happening now? Around August last year, 2021, we carried out a sting operation across the country, actually in 22 counties, using our own staff. And we were able to establish that there were so many SIM cards that were being hawked, that were being given out for free, that were being actually registered using documents that are not anticipated by the law, such as NHIF cards or even student ID cards. And therefore, it became apparent that it was necessary for us to ensure that all the operators revalidate all their databases with proper details of registration for all subscribers across the country.
Okay, Matano, you mentioned a moment ago that it was physical, you had to appear physically, but that's changed in the last 24, 48 hours. You don't have to physically appear to register, do you?
What I mean is that when you are being registered anew, if you're a fresh person wanting to buy a SIM card, you then would need to carry all those necessary documents. However, if you are registered, all what you need to do is to use the shortcode that the mobile operators have provided, that is *106#. And that shortcode would give you directions and show you which telephone numbers are actually linked to your identification document. Once that is confirmed, you have no reason to visit any agent for you to validate, because that is validation enough.
Right. Again, that number is *106#.
Yes, *106#. It is available across all the 3 network platforms.
Okay, let me ask you this. There's a lot of people who have bought SIM cards on behalf of their children.
Yes.
Who are minors.
Yes.
What happens in that instance?
For minors, what we need is for the parent to actually avail a birth certificate that shows that actually that SIM card that is bought for that child is actually identified through a registration document that the parent can possibly present or even upload using that process of *106#. Once that is done, they're good to go.
But in the case of foreigners, let's say you're a first-time visitor to Kenya and you buy a SIM card, what happens then?
You have to present your passport before a registering agent, and copies of that passport have to be taken and retained so that then that agent is able to identify you as Jeff Koinange from country A, and then that SIM card is registered. Yes.
There's no, obviously now there's a rule, there's no hawking of SIM cards, right? But what happens, how many designated shops are there across the country, especially in marginalized areas?
I may not have the exact number, but I believe that the mobile operators have actually created a network of dealers and agents who are the designated points at which SIM cards should be sold. In the past, we realized that SIM cards were being hawked in the streets, SIM cards were being sold in kiosks, and those people who were doing that did not have the facilities and capacity to actually facilitate registration in accordance with what the law actually does provide.
Director, the deadline is this coming Wednesday the 15th?
Yes.
Do you see it being extended, or we're going to meet the targets?
Based on the feedback that we're getting from the mobile operators, I think the compliance levels are rising. You know, Safaricom has mentioned 62 and 64, 62, and I think Airtel is at around 50-something. But we are confident that with the capability that has been provided through that shortcode, it should be possible for people to meet that requirement.
Yeah. And what about in far away places? Like people who haven't even heard.
Yes.
Up to now,
Yes.
they don't know anything about SIM card registration or validation. Like the elderly, people deep in Mashinani. How do you get that message to them between now and Wednesday?
It shouldn't be about between now and Wednesday, because this activity actually started way back in August 2021, when mobile operators started sending out messages to all their subscribers, guiding them to validate the number of SIM cards that are connected to the identification documents. And therefore, it's not something that started the other day. We only issued a deadline of 15th April in a communication that we sent out on the 24th of February. Otherwise, this information is out there, and it is the obligation of the mobile operators to ensure that all their subscribers get this information at the right time, wherever they are.
Okay, again, the extension is, by the way, the 15th, right, which is Friday.
Yes.
Which is Good Friday, by the way. Any chance of it being extended?
I cannot commit to that at this point, but we will evaluate the level of responses from the mobile operators, and based on that, perhaps certain decision may be made. However, as of now, the deadline is actually 15th of April, as earlier on stated.
And for people listening or watching right now, if you don't register or validate your SIM card, it'll be switched off on that day?
The switching off actually has to be facilitated by the mobile operator. They are the ones who then will send a message to you, the holder of that SIM card, to inform you that having failed to register that SIM card is going to be blocked. And you spoke about the fines. The fines are actually contained in the regulations. Failure to actually register your SIM cards attracts a fine of 300,000 or a jail term of 6 months. And for the mobile operators, the fines go up to even 500,000 per unregistered SIM card, up to 0.2% of their annual gross turnover.
Wow.
Yes, that is what the law says, and that is contained in the Kenya Information and Communications Act of 1998.
Matano Ndaro, we'll have to leave it at that. Thanks so much for your time and for the information. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you very much.